When you use your word and you give your commitment to another human being, I learned this from my first boss at a Fortune 100 company, Pete. He said one rule. Like after I got hired, I got this job, great big job, doing cool stuff, and one of my first big jobs after the military. And he said one rule the first day. It was so cool. It was probably the coolest thing. Probably one of the coolest things he ever said. He said, "Hey, there's one rule here I have for you." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "If you forget everything else, do what you say you're going to do." And so that's important. And coming from a West Point guy, I get that. Like, I'm all about that. But when he said that, like, forget everything else. Like, if you forget everything, just focus on that. It really helped me and helped me get to a point where I said, okay, how can this go off the rails? How can this fail? How can I end up not doing what I say I'm going to do? Like, where are the failure points? Where do I fall off and throw a gutter ball here? Well, the failure points will be when I sign up to do too much and I can't deliver, right? It'll come when I talk a bunch of smack and I don't walk the smack, right? Like, talking, I don't walk it. Okay, well, how can that happen? Well, that can happen if I get overworked, if I take on too much work, if I have too much hubris, if I say, yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can, and I try to please out of fear. And so many of us climb that cliff towards burnout. And so we give our word away freely, and then our reputation gets ruined because we didn't deliver. But all we wanted to do was please that friggin' organization, that boss, that family member, that person you freaking love. You say, yes, yes, I will. Yes, I'll be there. Yes, I'll do. And you just want them to be happy. But the reality is you're not checking your own gas tank. And that's what I found was the critical path of do what you say you're gonna do. Like, how's my gas tank, man? How full am I? And this comes to another discussion. How do I keep my gas tank full? So we could talk about that for years, right? Like, how to fill your gas tank, millions of ways, journaling, meditation, nature, whatever it is for you, man, getting out, disconnection, prayer, anything, like jumping jacks, like whatever it is, that's how you fill your tank. That's great. But now that your tank is filled, now we have to exercise some discernment on what do I want to spend this energy on? What do I want to say yes to? There's a great book, another book for you, brother, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Amazing book. It's about saying no to shit and actually growing up and creating boundaries. And this is a hard lesson for so many of us, especially high performers, people who are looking at this right now and like, oh man, I kick ass in my job. I just take on more. I got this, I got that. I did this, I did that. I achieved, I'm this, I'm that. I did all that shit. And you get to this point where you're taking it on, and you can fall off a cliff if you don't create boundaries. And you've got to be hell yes about the things you say yes to. And when you say yes to them with someone, commit. And I'm not saying you can't ever go back on your word. You can. If you need to, you tell that person, you report that news as fast as possible. The bad news, get it to them quicker. Don't let someone strung along thinking that you're going to do something and follow through in a 30-day period when you know on day 3 you're not going to execute. Hey, brother, I'm so sorry. My life is messed up. I dropped the ball over here, whatever. I'm not going to be able to do this for you. Great. Thanks for giving me 27 days to find someone that can, right? So now I didn't string you along, and I wasn't fearful to have that damn conversation and eat some crow and look like an idiot for a moment instead of living a life of anxiety and resent and just feeling like shit and then not performing at the end of it anyway. And like, you got to struggle that whole time. No, you got to friggin' make some decisions, not take that thing on, step up to the plate. I had to do this in parts of my life and cancel shit that I had planned, things on the line where I was like, I'm trying to do this. I got this thing and this company and this thing and that thing, and I got my hands, holy shit. I mean, Matthew McConaughey talks about this, like in Green Lights. He had a production company, a film company, an agency, a podcast. He had all these things, and he was on top of the world, but he started to feel anxious because he was doing a half-assed job at 7 things. And we don't have to do that. We can actually find places that we can work at a pace that fits us, that our production works, that our capacity, our relationships, like we can find relationships like that, where our capacity is okay. Those things exist. Those jobs, those companies, those friend groups, those communities, man. A lot of us feel lonely and we feel like those things don't exist. They freaking exist. There are people just like you. But it takes a little bit of finding out who you are first and saying, what is it, that makes me tick? How do I fill this gas tank? And how do I actually create boundaries with others, and step up to the plate? That all comes from self-love and getting in touch with this and knowing this is what I need, man. And that's my truth. And if I'm speaking that to you, and you said earlier about like people taking it the wrong way and getting far away from you and saying, hey man, Con, I love you, bro, but it sucks when you come over here at 7 a.m. and banging on the drums. Like it's really, it wakes me up, whatever it is. But like I'm coming to you and telling you from the heart, like, hey, I think I need till about 9 a.m. till we start, band practice or whatever it is, man. Like, or telling your boss, like, hey, I love this thing we're doing. I'd really prefer it. Can we do it like this? Or hey man, I really appreciate, the great ideas you have, boss, but when you send them to me on Saturday afternoon, I get a lot of anxiety that I have to respond to you, and I'm on a weekend with my wife. And so could you maybe wait till Monday to send those, or just kind of put them in a delay for me? Because it really causes me a lot of anxiety. You're creating boundaries. And you don't create them, man. All we can do is express and say, hey, when you do this, I feel this. So like now you're saying I have needs too, and this is what I feel, and you're giving that person a chance to either love you, support you, cheer for you, be part of your team, or say, we can't work together, we're not friends, and that's fine. That's a hard truth, brother, and especially in your 20s and 30s. Like for me, and the 40s not so much, but 20s and 30s was a lot of that. Like people I loved and knew for years, like we're just going different directions, dog. And like, I'm interested in different things. And like, the craziest thing about my life is I consider myself the richest person I know, with the wealthiest in friends, in true, deep relationships. I have deep relationships with tons and tons of people. Like, say it's 100 people just for round number's sake. Say I keep a super deep relationship with 100 people, right? Which is crazy. I'd say if it were 100 people, 75 of those, I'm 44, 75 of those I met in the last 5 to 6 years, maybe 8 years. And if you just think about that for a moment, that's wild to me. To the 20-year-old, I felt so lonely. God, I was so depressed. I was so anxious. I was so, all these different things. I had no boundaries. I was running around, putting fires out in the neighborhood while my house was on fire, because I didn't want to look inward. I didn't want to create boundaries. I didn't want to take care of this thing. And I kind of got in this place where I just started to take care of this, and I started to create those boundaries, and then friends started to fall away. And it's unfortunate, it's sad, but baby, it's shedding. It's actually the rivers, disembarking and going to other confluences with other small streams to make other rivers. This is life, this is growth, this is expansion of the nucleus of what we are, of letting it out and letting it breathe. But it takes that looking inside to the place where we're okay with ourselves, so that A, we can show up for others, B, we're courageous enough to create some boundaries. And when we get there, man, our words, gosh, when we think about the words we use and how important they are, we can actually act with more compassion with our words, with more mindfulness, with more thought and more love and more care. So again, man, those words can be weapons. They can be bridges. They can be all kinds of tools. And it comes back to the mindfulness of how am I showing up, and how am I using these words? How am I using these things?